Some people are very easy to work with. They don't fight, they don't argue. When you have conversations with them, they get along with you. Sometimes people call them yes men. They never argue. They never push back. They never disagree with what you say. At first, this kind of people seems like a gift, like good people. They keep the peace. They smooth over conflict. They make everything feel easier. But sometimes, the easiest person in the room is also the hardest person to truly understand. Tonight's story, we're going to talk about a man who never really disagrees with anyone. Never ever. Not once. And over time, people began to realize that actually. They began to realize that agreement can actually hide something far more complicated. Welcome to the quiet disturbance, where ordinary situations reveal the psychology beneath them. If you enjoy thoughtful stories like this about human behavior and subtle tension, please consider subscribing to this channel. Because not every disturbance is loud. Some disturbances are quiet. Today's episode is about this man who never really disagrees with anyone. This man was the easiest person to work with. Oh my, it was a gift. That was consensus. There was no argument. There was no disagreement about that. In fact, in the department at work where he works, that department actually was known for minor rivalries and quiet competition. But you know what? This man actually created no friction in that department. There was no problem from him. He was a good man, at least. That's what people know about him. If a deadline moved forward, for example, if you give him a work to do and you move the deadline forward, he doesn't complain, he agrees. If a meeting ran too long, he never complains. If someone criticizes his work, he thanked them. He was not the bad person. He wasn't first. Now, sometimes when you see some people trying to be a good man and they're genuinely not a good person, you can tell. Sometimes their behavior feels and seems forced. But this man was opposite. He was completely cool and calm and collected. This was not sarcastic. It wasn't even sarcastic. It was smooth and effortless. At first, everyone appreciated him. Let's be honest, who would not? But there is something comforting about a person who never resists what you say. Because when you talk to them and you try to present your case before them, maybe, you think they're going to push back? No. In fact, in their presence, conflict shortens, argument dissolves, tension softens. But comfort, when examined closely, can actually reveal something else. Over time, people began to notice a pattern about this man. And that started little by little. One day, during a strategic meeting, two managers disagreed about the direction the company was going. One of the directors favored caution. The other one favored speed. The agreeable man, the yes man, if you like, listened very carefully to both directors, both managers. When the cautious manager spoke, the yes man nodded his head in agreement to what he said. When the aggressive manager spoke, this same man also nodded his head. So he basically was showing signs of agreement to both managers who were actually saying something different. Later that afternoon, in a separate conversation, he told each of them privately that they were right. He did not contradict himself. He adjusted effortlessly. At the time, this seems like a diplomatic move. But Diplomacy usually involves choosing balance. This man chose alignment. With whoever was present, he chose alignment. People didn't feel threatened by this, obviously. They were only curious. Because agreement is not unusual in professional environment, but consistency is. And its consistency wasn't in opinion. It was an absence of opinion. During performance review, when asked about his ambition, he would respond, "Whatever the team needs me to do, I'll do." This sounded cooperative, but it answered nothing. When this man was asked about the project that excited him the most, he smiled and said, "I enjoy whatever creates the most value." That answer was agreeable, and the answer was undefined. Over time, something subtle emerged. No one could recall a single idea he strongly defended. No position he stood behind. No one could remember a moment where he resisted. He contributed, he completed his task, he participated, but he never anchored himself to anything. In environments where disagreement creates frictions, many people soften their edges. It is a natural instinct. Conflict can cause isolation. Disagreement can cause opportunity. But most people still reveal themselves in a small way. Preferences leak. True. Values surface eventually. It revealed nothing about this man. This man actually revealed nothing. Now, people decided to test this man. They wanted to test it, not maliciously, just to understand the kind of person he is. So during a lunch, one of their lunch period, this man, someone expressed a strong opinion about a new policy change. This man agreed with him. Later that day, the narrator reversed his stance deliberately. One of the friends, the people who sat around him, who told the story, all of a sudden changed his stand. Remember, earlier during the day, he expressed a strong opinion about a situation, and this yes man agreed with him. But later that day, he changed his opinion and said, "Okay, I actually don't believe what I said, but I believe this now. I believe another thing." And then this man agreed again, without hesitation, in fact. Now, this is not dishonesty. It was just fluidity. Like water taking shapes of whatever container held it. At first, this adaptability seems harmless, but over time, it began to affect the room. Meetings grew quieter. Disagreement felt heavier. His agreement often determined the emotional temperature of the room. Not because he was powerful, but because he was neutral. And neutrality in tense environment feels stabilizing until you realize that he isn't neutral at all. One afternoon, a client requested a change that would reduce transparency in reporting. The team debated about that. Some felt uncomfortable. Others felt pressured by deadline. This man listened and then agreed with the majority. Not the most ethical voice, not the loudest one actually. Now people began to feel the shift. Agreement in that moment was in politeness, it was safety. Safety disguised as harmony. Months passed. Restructuring rumors circulated. Tension rose. When layoffs were finally announced, several strong personalities were removed. People with opinions were removed. People who challenged directions were removed. His name was not on the list. He had never disrupted alignment. He had never opposed leadership. He had never made himself difficult. He had also never stood out. Eventually, unexpectedly, he resigned quietly. No dramatic announcement, just a short email thanking everyone for the opportunity. Weeks later, during a meeting, the person who told his story felt himself nodding too quickly, agreeing too easily. He stopped, not because he disagreed, but because he wasn't sure. For the first time, the silence in the room felt different. This time, not tension, not hostility, just present.